Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. What a beautiful sight to see so many of you here this morning, bright and early, to celebrate really what we have accomplished here in Marion County with this thing that we call the Marion County Reentry Initiative. And I'm so honored to be a part of it and so honored that you are here today. The first thing that we want to do is to thank our sponsors. And we have a lot of sponsors. And if we could get the slide of our spot, there we go. So our platinum sponsors are Bridgeway Recovery Services, the Union Gospel Mission, Marion County, Mountain West Investment Corporation. Gold sponsors Creekside Counseling, Chemeketa Community College, Commissioner Kevin Cameron, Insight, Salem Leadership Foundation, and SEDCOR. Our silver sponsors, Allied Video, Capital Community Television, Community Action, and Salem Alliance Church. And our collaborating sponsor is Family Building Blocks. So if we could give all those sponsors a big hand. Thank you. Also want to thank Greg Peterson for our breakfast this morning. Greg, stand up. There he is. And Greg was just honored by the NAACP on Saturday evening. Is that right, Greg? And so we want to congratulate him on that honor. Well deserved. We have a number of dignitaries here. If you would stand when your name is called, and then we'll applaud at the end when all of them are standing. First, our State Senator Jackie Winters, State Representative Paul Evans, State Representative Bill Post, Selma Pierce, representing Bud Pierce, candidate for governor, Katie Gauthier and Fritz Graham, representing U.S. Senators Jeff Merkley and Ron Wyden, Jonathan Sandow, representing Congressman Kurt Schrader, Kaiser Mayor Kathy Clark, Kaiser City Councilors Kim Freeman, Marlene Parsons, and Amy Ryan. You know, so we have a great turnout from Kaiser here today. Salem City Councilor Tom Anderson and Chief Jerry Moore, Silverton City Councilor Ken Hector, Marion County District Attorney Walt Beglaw, Marion County Sheriff Jason Myers, Marion County Commissioners Sam Brentano and Kevin Cameron. We're going to have the whole room standing up here in a minute. Marion County Clerk Bill Burgess, 24J Superintendent Christy Perry, and I noticed Julie Huckstein is here too. You were going to be in Roseburg today, so I didn't have you on my list, but Chemeketa Community College President Julie Huckstein, former Oregon Supreme Court Justice Paul DeMunis, and a special welcome to Casey Gwynn and his team from the Alliance for Hope. So you're dignitaries too, so let's give them all a big hand. Next, I want to thank our 24 table captains, if they would stand. I'm not going to name each one of you, but they are here and willing to serve, and we really appreciate their service. Then the breakfast committee, Daniel Adato, Gordine Ash, some of these folks may be actually out in the hall, but if you'll stand if you're in this room, Sarah Cavazos, Denise Clark, Kathy Crocker, Tamara Getch, Jolene Kelly, Matt Meyer, Hitesh Parekh, he's the one with the camera, Sarah Sparks, Krista Ulm, Alicia Weathers, Christy Witherell, and Jan Calvin. If you could all stand, and we will acknowledge you. The breakfast wouldn't be possible without them. And our final thanks to Allied Video for being here today and recording this event and doing our sound. They always do a fantastic job, and they were also involved in putting together our videos. So thanks to Allied Video. So this is our 7th annual Giving People a Second Chance breakfast. The purpose of this breakfast is to recognize that people can change. People who have committed crimes, been held accountable, and are returning to our communities. In Marion County, this is a lot of people. I had Jeff Wood check the statistics for me, and our latest statistics are just over 3,700 people on parole and probation here in Marion County, with 600 returning annually from state prison. Our situation in this community is driven largely by the fact that we have 4 state prisons, 2 juvenile corrections facilities, 1 Oregon State hospital, and the 3rd largest jail in the state with 14,000 annual bookings. This drives a lot of the social service needs that we have in this community. And we can't forget that for each crime committed, victims are created. In the video that you'll see next, our reentry clients talk about their victims, about regret, about the new people that they have become. You'll also see that while in no way do we excuse their crimes or forget that we all choose our own behaviors, many of the offenders returning home were also influenced by violence and substance abuse in their own young lives. It's a paradox that pulls together our exploration of issues surrounding prisoner reentry and victim services this morning.
Growing up was rough when I was little. Didn't have a lot of money, on welfare. My parents were on welfare. My dad was actually, he was an alcoholic, a really bad one. We would, anywhere we went, you know, he had a beer open container in the vehicles, and with his alcohol, he didn't really do a whole bunch of talking. It was, you know, discipline was physical. When we were in trouble, you know, it was spankings, and then as we got a little bit older, you know, if me and my brother were fighting or something in the bedroom, I remember one time him just opening up the door and just full fist punch, you know, and get knocked out, you know, but that's how he dealt with things.
I have a hard time remembering anything younger than 10. I don't know if it's because I don't want to remember or if it's I just can't remember. I don't really know. But the last time, or not the last time, but the first time I remember is when I was about 10 or 11 years old. And I ended up getting thrown against the wall.
My dad was kind of like, what do you call, emotionally, not physically abusive, but like verbally mean. My mom became a bartender, and I was with her, so we partied together. And I think I started smoking weed at 11, drinking. I started smoking cigarettes at like 10, and that all went downhill from there.
9 years old, started drinking my mom's Strawberry Hill Boone Farms. Yeah, she found me drinking her stuff and ended up beating me for drinking her wine. In 1998, I think I was 20, 21, something like that. I got a DUI. Almost killed 2 little girls in a state cop's yard up in Jefferson. I was coming to my aunt's house and ran off the road and crashed. And from what the officer said, he said that his daughters were playing there about 10 minutes before I crashed, before his wife called him in. And then I got my mom, who I kidnapped and assaulted. I drug her down some stairs, was drinking one night. And due to the resentment I've had towards her all my life and the disrespect that she showed me as a young boy, the violence, I got burns right here, you know, 8 years old, getting tortured pretty much. It came out one night.
It's really important to give victims a voice in the process. When you talk to victims about how they feel about how the process worked for them, whether they felt like they had justice, a lot of times you hear them talk about they had a voice or they didn't have a voice.
It's not uncommon for us to hear from a victim that their offender's getting out, and very often they may have built a new life, and so that idea that they're going to come back in and affect them in some way is very scary for them. We also have those individuals who do want to go back to that person, and so one of the big things for them is, will it be different this time? How will I know? And so we do a lot of information sharing about, here's some clues if you see it going back in a direction that you're not comfortable with or you don't feel as safe.
If they're wanting reunification, I work with the victims to make sure that they have safety plans, that everything is in place, what they may need to do, whether they were wanting safety or whether they're wanting reunification. It's, you know, I let them make that choice.
One of the most important things we can keep in mind is that any type of crime is always a choice that someone makes to do that to someone else, and they can make a different choice. There are times when they have had victimization that they need support to heal from. It doesn't take away from the crime that they did. It doesn't change the fact that they need to be held accountable for the crime that they did. But how do we then support them to heal from whatever it is that the trauma that they experienced?
He was scared when he first saw me because he knows the old me and not this new guy that I am now. You know, so he ran, you know, and I kind of ran after him because I really wanted to talk to him. He was one of my best friends, you know, and I sat him down eventually and we started talking, and then he told me how he felt. You know, he was hurt. You know, he lost a good friend at that point, you know, not to mention the physical pain that I caused him. You know, he ended up he broke down and cried. And in doing so, I ended up breaking down and crying. You know, and it's like, you know, he told me about the mental anguish that he went through, and, you know, how he couldn't trust another friend. He told me that he ended up having bad relationships after that because he didn't feel like a man, basically, because of the things that I did. And I ended up talking to him and telling him, you know, try to make amends with it, how sorry I am. And that's to the point where I started to cry, because I know after hearing what he said, no words can take away the years that he spent being like that. You know, and me being the new guy that I am now, you know, I want to be his friend. I want to, you know, he's a good guy. He's got his head on his shoulders now, and I want to be there in his life. But I'm not sure if I'm ready or if he's ready for it emotionally.
But really the victims that have been, for me, have been my kids and my family. They've been really the true victims of anything that I've ever done, because I'm not around, you know, having to hear from their mom that I'm locked up again, that they're not going to see me because I'll be away in prison for whatever amount of time, or just not coming home because I was out selling dope. So really, that's pretty much been the victims for me.
When I was little, I didn't really know the definition or the meaning of what a dad was, because I never really had a dad really my whole life except for these 2 years.
We have a fairly good system for getting restitution ordered within our courts, but I think there's a really important connection when offenders are looking at rehabilitation and actually having some accountability and taking ownership over some of the losses that they caused victims, being able to connect for them, that when they're paying that restitution, they're helping try to make that victim whole again, and part of that is paying for that loss.
Since I've been out, I paid off all my back child support, and then my restitution will be almost paid. I got my driver's license, so I'm working on wrapping those things up, and which is going to help my credit. Because in the past I never cared about credit, you know. Now once you change your life and you realize that those things matter.
Oh, well, I'm not even the same person. I'm told all the time now my personality doesn't match my looks. So, yeah, I just want, now that I've tasted what it's like to be, I don't know if you want to call it normal, but like average, or just the average life, or what everybody in society lives, I don't want nothing else. There's nothing that could make me go back. Yeah, it's too good.
Coming out of prison with nothing, no family, no friends, no money, and just being humble and accepting the help that's out there. Because a lot of guys like myself, we get this pride and we're like, I got it, man. I can call these girls, or I got friends over here, when they're unhealthy places and friends.
Now, my life is great. I'm a father of 4 children. I'm a full-time college student. I work part-time. Me and my fiance have been together 19 years, and we're getting married on the 29th of this month. So that's a big event. I've been clean and sober almost 6 years. I'm really active through Chemeketa, pursuing my human services degree to be a drug and alcohol counselor.
I'm not the same guy that I was growing up, my teenage years, or even last year. You know, in a short amount of time, I mean, I've changed my way of thinking. My thought process is totally different, brand new. It's like I rebooted and, you know, I'm processing all this information. I dumped out my hypothetical cup and it's empty now, and I'm just throwing all this new information in it. And I mean, change is hard won, but it is possible.
Walt Beglaw has called the District Attorney's Office home for more than 25 years. As a Deputy DA, a trial team manager, and Marion County's District Attorney since 2004. He has served as President of the Oregon District Attorneys Association, Vice President of the Marion County Bar Association, and Chair of the Family Preservation Action Team, among many other affiliations. My own impressions of Walt, having worked with him for more than a decade now, is that he is a man of great integrity, who cares deeply about the people of Marion County and cares deeply about public safety. He has served with passion and dignity and is a recognized leader in our county and in our state. It's an honor for me to introduce now Walt Beglaw, who will discuss the dimensions of public safety.
Thank you, Janet, and good morning. It's really a pleasure for me to be here with all of you this morning. So many familiar and friendly faces, colleagues and friends day to day. Let me begin with a belief, with a proposition that we are not defined by our past. We are not defined even necessarily by the present. We're not defined by our work, our job title, or our address. And all those might be realities that bring us special privilege or burden, we are not defined by them. I believe that we share a very common purpose. And maybe this is what really defines this room and the community that we live in. That purpose is a safe and healthy community. One that strives to respect, as we have seen, the experience of those harmed. One that ensures accountability for one's behavior. One that brings hope and support to those who have made mistakes in their lifetime, and we all have, and are willing to come beyond those and put those in the past. That's really about this moment here this morning. As I shared years ago at this very breakfast, people can change, and I believe that, and that's why I'm here. So as a community, we really have come so far in 7 years. I can't believe it's been 7 years since we've been convening as a community for breakfast here. We've learned that that systems can change as well. That the way we do business, the most important businesses of all, our families and our community, can change. And it's really been possible if you are willing, and we are willing to take risks, if we are willing to shed the suit and tie, that if we share our talents that we have in our community and employ that collective will, I'll describe it, we really can change. Today, we celebrate that understanding that delivering public safety is about cultivating the promise of change and cultivating the promise of opportunities that an individual can have in all corners of the justice system and in every dimension. Thank you for that. As district attorney, I want to be a part of that. Although I've spent all of my career, that video was such a, I didn't see that video before this morning, but it was such an impact for me as I thought through my comments here this morning. I spent all my career to try and read the faces of victims as a career prosecutor. But it is my wife who represented those accused of crimes for much of her career that encouraged me to see that we might not all be that much different in our experience and in our lives. We recognize familiar enemies. The intergenerational cycle of abuse and neglect, the deliberate battery of domestic violence, the detriment that it creates and the chaos that it creates for little ones and their loved ones, the paralysis of substance abuse and addiction, very close to my heart, the prevalence of mental illness and its intolerable harm, and how it's threaded through all of the work that the sheriff and I and other law enforcement deal with every single moment of every single day. These are our parameters. It's like a box. Well before, and we're going to share a little bit about this, well before the investments of House Bill 3194. That's justice reinvestment. That's what we're working on collectively really, really hard here and now, and have been for a couple of years. Long before that, Marion County made a substantial down payment to tackle the challenges that I have shared with you and that you know so well. From this very reentry initiative that brings us together here this morning, bridging the gap between incarceration and community, the evolution of crisis intervention training to crisis response, outreach response, which pairs law enforcement with mental health professionals reaching out into the community, all the way to mobile crisis, 24/7 response for those suffering from an acute mental health experience. All delivering and developing diversion away from the traditional court response. These things have been in motion for years, and thank you to all of you that have worked on that. Thank you to Sheriff Myers and his team around those efforts in the mental health arena. And if you step beyond, one step beyond that, you reach into our community, the incredible non-profit fabric of family building blocks, insulating those vulnerable families to Liberty House, our child abuse assessment center, to the Center on Hope and Safety, our direct response to the survivors of domestic violence. And I must put a plug in for our own victim assistance program, where you saw from Kim, working united alongside those nonprofits as those victims come through our process. We're on track. Many of you know that the soundbite of these investments of justice reinvestment is to curb prison growth and reinvest in proven local programs and strategies. Your local Public Safety Coordinating Council, along with the Reentry Council, through the leadership of Commissioner Carlson, has worked tirelessly for 9 months and longer to redefine, magnify, and invigorate those community-based strategies in an area where they're needed. From a balance of prison diversion with significant supervision, our 416 model has taken those prison-bound offenders you've seen and keeping them out of prison and supervising them in their community, to across the spectrum to link up those investments in mentorship, mental health, and substance abuse that is embedded in many of our communities, to a premium placed on victims. And that premium in our investment is going to be an additional advocate for those, bilingual advocate for those who need those services in domestic violence experiences to obtain restraining orders and other services. We're about to push go. And I wanted to highlight that incredible energy that's moving forward. I wanted to highlight that this morning I think we have cause to celebrate, and we have an opportunity to renew our efforts as a community. And remember, we're all on the same team. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me, and thank you for what you're doing for this effort. Thank you.
Almost 4,000 people are on parole and probation in Marion County. We have roughly 600 people every year that are released from prisons back into our community. This is both the end and the beginning. An end to incarceration for past mistakes, often involving drugs or alcohol, and always with victims. The beginning of a new opportunity, but often fraught with challenges and anxiety.
We have to have a strategy that actually captures both the work that the state does through various state agencies, but also at the local level with the private nonprofits that are involved in delivering these services, with the faith-based community and with the business community, to acknowledge this as a statewide and a community public safety issue.
The theme this morning is giving chances to individuals who are returning back into society from incarceration. Individuals who need our help bridging the gap from a system of confinement to a system of a free society.
Well, this is really a head and heart issue. You can care about it because it makes sense from a logical perspective. It saves the taxpayers money. You can also, from a heart perspective, know that if they become tax-paying citizens, if they become people who are giving back to the community, if they become good, solid parents and good spouses, this is going to help our community all the way around. Everyone's safer and our community is stronger.
People get second chances. How many people here haven't had somebody come alongside of them and helped you? I know I have.
Supervision is the foundation that holds offenders accountable and keeps communities safe. In the past, clients could face harsh consequences while attempting to overcome barriers. Today, parole and probation deputies work to build rapport, focus on client strengths, and are trained in motivational interviewing and other evidence-based practices.
When I first became a probation officer, it was really a person would come into our office and we would really do a lot of dictation. We'd get court orders and we would tell them, go do this, go do that. Now it's evolved into really building a rapport and actually helping the clients change their cognitive thinking. So not only referring them to treatment, but actually interacting with them and helping them change their behavior.
I just want everybody to know that you can change, it's not about who's holding you back. All these people here, the probation officers and everything, they're just people, just like you, And as long as you do the right thing, they have no reason to bother you. And, you can be successful, just like me.
One of our mottos is, what I model for my children will become. We actually have that up on our board in our office, and it holds true. And we're trying to break that cycle because many of them have grown up in those homes, whether it's physical abuse, sexual abuse, or the drug addiction.
The Marion County Reentry Initiative offers parent skill building through SOAR, Family Building Blocks, and the DeMunez Resource Center.